So I guess we start. I just want to you guys seen the question, so I just want to start asking by what are your roles in Monkey Kid's development? Because I've seen your Twitter bios. I think I know what you do, but can you guys further explain to me or to us what is your exact role in Monkey Kid's team or development team?
Yeah, sure. So I'm David, and I'm story producer for the first 2 seasons. I just sort of look after, along with Sarah, like the internal versions of the scripts. So we comment on them from the writers, and then take them in and workshop them with the whole team, and then end up getting them recorded with the actors. And yeah, it's a ridiculously fun job.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Christian. I'm the animation director for Monkey Kid. So that's kind of like the one really making the show.
Wow.
Putting it together.
I really feel Christian.
No, it's basically Sarah will explain her job in a second, but Sarah's series director, and she kind of looks after story and the designs and the storyboards and stuff, and that all comes to me, and I kind of get that finished. So put together all the images, make everything beautiful on model, finished and ready for everyone to look at. So it's I think if I go any further, it's boring. But yeah, Sarah.
Hey, and I'm Sarah. I'm the series director for Monkey Kid. So I've been on since late 2018, early 2019, and I kind of dip my toe into everyone's business. So I'm like kind of in there from scripting through to casting. I don't do the casting, but I'm kind of involved in those decisions. Storyboarding, design. I hand everything to Christian because I defer to his wisdom, I think, in that whole area, and then I pick it all back up at like kind of music, sound, that sort of thing, going into post, all that. So I'm just kind of like, I'm annoying everybody. That's a professional nuisance. It's my job.
Okay, so now I want to get into how did you all get into Flying Bark, and how did you get involved into Monkey Kid?
I was looking at Christian thinking, is Christian going to jump in? I don't know.
I can start.
We've been at Flying Bark for, God, what's it, like 6 years?
Maybe coming up on 7.
Maybe coming up on 7 years. So we've been at Flying Bark together for 7 years, but we've worked together for almost 10. So that's been fun.
Yeah.
I actually went to school with Christian.
Weirdly, yeah.
Yeah. A whole bunch of us sort of like weirdly fell into animation from our school, and there's a few still going that we're all still working together. But
and we kind of met and worked together on some different projects at different companies. Had a Flying Bark, and were kind of semi-mutually scouted. We're definitely looking for somewhere where we could work on something really big with a big team, and Flying Bark liked what we could do. So Sarah and I joined about the same time, and started to build a team. Worked on some small stuff, and then eventually landed some gigs with Nickelodeon, which is really exciting, and one of which was Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is what LEGO kind of spotted us for.
So when they reached out to us, they were like, "We love your stuff on Rise. Like, do you think you could do something like that for us?" And we're like, "Yes, I suppose we could do that. Maybe." Like, it was just like, oh, pretty intimidating.
They asked us to do some development, some testing and stuff, and we were super interested because we were like, well, we were obviously very familiar with LEGO's work. I think everyone is. I think Lego Movie was probably hadn't come out that long ago, and so we're kind of like probably the same as I think a lot of people's reactions were when they found out that it was going to be a 2D Lego show, of like, oh, that's interesting and weird, and also probably incredibly hard to draw. But they certainly came to us and were like, look, we love what you did with Rise, and we love you guys' style and everything, and they kind of wanted us to do something totally fresh and new. So I think the words at the time were that they wanted us to make them feel uncomfortable.
I remember when they said that, Christian and I looked at each other and we're like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because we will make you uncomfortable. And they're like, yeah, do it. I think when they saw what we would do, they were like, oh, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah, so they're while at the same time saying things like that, they're also showing us like the guides to design and stuff. I think there's like a 200-page document out there somewhere for the minifig proportions and stuff. So it's really just going like how uncomfortable do you really want to be? And yeah, I'm sure they regretted saying that at certain points, but
because we definitely use that. We're like, well, you said you wanted us to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
so
you said.
Can't take it back now.
But yeah, we did some teaser animation and some development and stuff, and with a lot of back and forth and a lot of collaboration. And LEGO was very supportive and very collaborative during this stage, which was awesome. We kind of found a style that I think made everyone really happy. We loved drawing it. They loved looking at it. That's basically the conception.
I'm interested. You talked about the test footage. I heard by your former showrunner Village that you guys pitched your first pitch to LEGO was this DBK versus Wukong intro. How do you guys come up with that? I'm interested.
Well, it was actually the first test we ever did for this was we boarded it because before we kind of like jumped on, we were like, oh, well, we want to do a bit of a test to, just see how much we can push this stuff and to see whether or not they were being honest. And they're like, we want Rise. We're like, okay, well, we'll give you Rise. But it was a test animation with MK on a bike shooting up a street towards DBK and then like kind of hitting him with this stuff or something like that. So we did this kind of weird little test of going, oh, I guess this is the sort of thing that would be in this show. I feel like I found the test recently, looked at it, was like, I'm just going to hide that somewhere. I don't want to look at that again.
That's our dirty laundry now, yeah.
Especially compared to the stuff that the team's making now. I'm like, oh my God, like it's like, it's completely different. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was just kind of like, we knew it was a toy thing. We knew the things we wanted to test. So like, painted close-ups of vehicles and dynamic kind of character animation and that sort of thing. And also like kind of pushing the character style as well was something we were like, great, we'll, I don't know, have a fiddle with that and see where the range is. I think we actually pushed it a lot more. Like we didn't even have like the yellow skin tone, I don't think, in the final color from memory. Like it was, it was pretty different, but it formed a really good base. I think because we went so like far the other direction with it, it was kind of a lot easier for us to pull back and maybe get away with a few things because it was like, oh, well, at least it's not as crazy as what they did on the test. But yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, but there were a lot of things I picked up straight away. And were just like, there's a lot of crazy foreshortening and stuff. There's a lot of we play a lot with like scale and proportions and stuff, like when it's funnier and cooler and everything. And I think they picked up on all of that really quickly, the kind of stuff that you wouldn't normally see in like a 3D LEGO production, and went, oh, okay, cool. Like that's, these are good reasons to do this, to do it in 2D, just for something different. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what like brought me into Monkey Kid, just how different it looked from anything LEGO had done at that point. I don't know if my colleagues want to ask anything because I feel like I'm kind of taking over.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah, Chris. We have two Christians in here. So that hopefully isn't going to get confusing. But we got two Christians in here.
Go by Chris, so it's all good.
Okay, I'll be Christian then.
All right, cool.
That's
yeah,
the deal.
Christian, man. If you want to go ahead and ask another question, we can go. We have like a doc, and we have assigned each of us like questions. So we're just gonna kind of like go off and see how we can read these off for each of us. So hopefully that's cool with you guys.
No, totally. If you can't tell, we just talk over each other. So
Yeah. This is us actively trying not to talk over one another.
We're loving the conversation flow. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
Actually, just one last thing before I shut up. Is there any possibility we can see that test footage someday?
Well, what I wanted to do, and I'd spoken to Kalina about this. I wanted to get like a whole package together. Christian and I were going to go through and find like some design material, some early stuff, and get you guys a package. So we haven't done that yet, but I was hoping that after this, I'll probably go and get a whole bunch of stuff for you. I can't guarantee the test will be in there because I don't think I can look at it anymore.
Yeah, honestly, it's like
blurry, censored version of it, and you can have that.
Yeah, honestly, it's probably not even down to like whether we're allowed. It's just like I don't know if we want anyone to see this ever.
No, I'm dirty laundry. I'm like,
Very
no.
Good enough to win the production for the company, but never left the head. Ever.
I think there's always a thing, like you always kind of continue to improve and stuff. So I'm a little bit like, I'm always very proud of the last episode we did, and the second last episode, I'm like, I don't want to look at that anymore.
I know, and then you have to wait a whole year and then watch the episodes that you made first, and they go, "Oh wait, these are fine."
Yeah. Once you get some distance, it's like I can like him as a fan, but while in the immediate artist aftermath, I'm like, what have I done? What's this monstrosity?
Yeah. I've ruined television forever.
Yeah.
It is funny, like we always talk about, like, because I think. At least for us, we look at season 2 as like being a bump up in quality, at least in our abilities and stuff. But then going back to season 1 relatively recently, I know for me, it was like, wait, no, these are still great. What am I talking about?
And then you look at season 3 and you go, oh God, we really up and up and up.
It's funny you say that, because when season 2 came out in Australia last year, I thought season 2 was like such a bigger step up than season 1. But then I went back to season 1 recently, and I was like, season 1 is amazing. Like, I don't know why I'm saying this. Like, season 1 is great.
It's a weird thing, I think, where you compare them and you go, no, season 2 is better. And then you go back and you go, no, wait, season 1's better because of this. And it's like, I don't know, it's one of those weird shows, I think, where like, I don't know, like it happened on Rise a lot too, where I couldn't pick a favorite character or a favorite episode or anything, because it's just like, I don't know, they were all really great in their own sort of way. So I don't know.
Yeah, in their own way.
Like, going back just to like season 1, like I go back to like episode, I think it's like the Skeleton Key. The chase scene in the sequence in that episode is fantastic. It's godly. Like May versus Red Sun, and MK felt like being really steps behind. That's like amazing. And I just sometimes
I think that was like one of the first Ash Jacobson scenes. So Ash jumped on with us like kind of pretty late on season 1, and that was like their first scene. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, please don't leave us. it was just at a point where I was like, this is awesome. Like, we're kind of building that dream team, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Before you guys started I guess working on Monkey Kid, how many of you guys were like familiar with the source material for what Journey to the West was?
I mean, I'll
Christian,
jump
you
in
were
on
probably the most. Oh no, you go, Sarah.
No, well, yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how you answer that one really, but it's like, I mean, obviously, like I grew up with probably the most revered as probably one of the more inappropriately dubbed versions, but like I was pretty familiar with it. Like, obviously there's Dragon Ball, there's Monkey Magic, which is not going on, but like in terms of like the actual mythology and stuff, like it's just like the more you dig into it, the more you just absolutely fall in love with it. Like, I hadn't read the full thing until like recently. And by full thing, I mean like an abridged translated version. Like, I was working my way through like the kind of unabridged version, and then you kind of look at them, you go, oh, pretty similar. Like, you know, they miss obviously a bunch of chapters and stuff, but then like when you go in, it's because so many of the stories are like kind of much the same story with different, like a different dressing, different character, different, you know, setting or whatever. But yeah, I was probably like, that was actually kind of a big thing that drew me to the project. When like I came and pitched it, they were like, oh, we got this like kind of Journey to the West theme. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, Monkey King's in. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then they showed us the toys. I was like, oh, I think we should test for this. This is sick. Like, yeah, it was exciting. And also I'm a Year of the Monkey, so obviously that's always going to be drawn to that. So
that's going on the wiki. That's going on the wiki.
What was the first thing I think? First conversation I had with Sean Schemmel was he was like, yeah, I'm Year of the Monkey. I was like, I was Year of the Monkey too. And he's like, oh, what year? And I was like, oh, I don't want to tell you how young I am. Don't mess with me.
But yeah, I don't know. Dave's probably the same as me, though. I think Sarah's the most familiar, but it's like it's like pulling a thread. I think the Journey to the West stuff, where like the first time you kind of you told something. Like, I'm a massive Dragon Ball Z fan, like, and so as a kid I was obsessed with that. And then when someone says, oh, here's all the parallels, and this, like, so much of that lore is based in that, and then you even pull that thread and you find out like there's little Easter eggs everywhere. I think Iron Fan's fan is just in an episode of Dragon Ball, like Master Roshi has it and stuff like that. So but then, you know, you start to just kind of see it all around you in everything, especially like in a lot of, like, I honestly, my biggest connection to it though is I'm a really big Gorillaz fan, Damon Albarn's band.
Nice.
And so he wrote that whole the whole soundtrack to Monkey Journey to the West. And I listened to that a bunch of times before I even knew what that was. I just thought Journey to the West sounded cool and stuff. And then one day I was like, I thought it was an album, and I found out it was a soundtrack. And then I kind of looked into it that way and like read the Wikipedia for who Monkey was and everything. And I was like, oh, this is sick. And kind of took it from there. So, but yeah, from that moment, it's crazy. It's pervades so much of just media in general, not just the West. So, yeah.
And now Lego too.
So like for me, it was probably the same as most people, where it's like, you know, the Monkey King, you know, like he's ridiculously powerful and all that, and some of the adventures. But it's so funny. Like I certainly didn't know that Tang was Tripitaka was the main character of the book. you get into it and you're like, oh right, no, this makes sense.
That pivot's really funny too, because you just go, hey, here's this really awesome guy. Okay, enough about him. Here's this other guy who's going to be. Oh, okay.
Were you nervous at all? Like obviously Journey to the West is like hundreds of chapters, but like were you nervous at all in taking on like the legacy of like such a big like piece of history?
No,
absolutely. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a massive story with a massive history, and like, you know, kind of getting up to speed with. Yeah, well, that's it. And like, I mean, getting the right people involved to be like kind of peer reviewing everything as well, going, hey, if we wanted to put this character in this scenario, like, is that like a good thing or not? And you kind of, it was definitely like, I think everything that we do is still just like, I don't know, you go in really confident and then you go, oh, but I better double check this with like so many people just to make sure this is like
I'd be so afraid about like getting something wrong on accident.
Yeah, and it's such a, you know, it's been translated so many times in so many different ways as well. I think it's really tricky to know, like, what does Monkey King in particular mean to people? Because, you know, you talk to one person and he's Superman, he's this pure, amazing person, and then you talk to other people and it's like, oh, well, he's this guy who, like, peed on Buddha's hand and and just disrupted heaven and busted everyone up, you know? So I think kind of like, his character in particular, we're trying to kind of get a balance that would appeal to a lot of people, and you know, we'd make him this really great, likable guy, without just kind of skirting over, you know, some of his flaws and stuff, and forgetting that past that's such an integral part of who he is as a character. And I think that's kind of a little bit in all the characters, especially the ones that are really tricky, to be honest.
Yeah. It is always that thing, like Christian says, like the translations. There's so many translations, and then there's so many adaptions, and it's depending who you talk to. Like someone's like, you know, I'm an expert on this, or you know, like I know it really well, and it's like, okay, but which version do you know? And it's
that's it.
You talk to 10 people that give you 10 different ideas of what this guy means and what this story means.
That's it, because it's like they've either read the book or they've watched the TV show or they've watched one of the million TV shows, or you know, so it's really hard because it's like the most adapted story and character. So it's like, you know, it's a tricky one, but it's I mean, that's so fun because it inspires so much imagination and so many stories. Like that's like the testament of a really good story, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. If you haven't read the book, you should go read it. It's really good. Yes. Read any of the versions.
Yeah,
I do have to say that Monkey Kid inspired me to get into Journey to the West. And now Wukong is one of my favorite characters ever, just because of Monkey Kid.
Yeah, he's such a joke.
He's the best and the worst.
With trying to cover like such an extensive story and sort of adapt that, were there ever any sort of issues with trying to fit a single episode story into the 11-minute format?
If you've ever watched any of the episodes, yes.
The short answer is
it's definitely a fast-paced show, and a lot of that comes from wanting to explore the characters. It's not even so much the story itself. Like I think as the show's gone on, like we were familiar with like kind of the format of like an 11-minute episode, right? Because we'd done like, you know, Turtles, which also kind of like runs really, really fast as well. But like, that 11-minute format, you really don't have time to milk a whole lot in there. Like you pretty much have to get to the point, and then it's like kind of peppering like kind of great character moments and some nice action and stuff in there. But really, you have to keep these stories pretty contained, or you split them into 2-parters, which obviously earlier in the series, like season 1, it was like, no, we're not serializing this. Like, we don't have double episodes or whatever. And we've seen obviously that isn't so much the case these days. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I feel like nowadays too, with like just media in general, everything has sort of been like so condensed down that I feel like now, like watching MK, like I binged all of season 1 and season 2 in a day, and I felt like the pace was really strong throughout it. But then when I go and watch like an hour-long episode of a TV show, I'm like, wow, this is like kind of dragging for me.
Yeah, that's me too. Yeah.
We changed the brand. The other shows, they're the right ones, and then we've changed it for you. It's very fast paced, but like that's the vibe, I guess. So
for sure. One question I had that, of course, I have to ask. So did you guys get familiar with any of Lego's other shows, such as Ninjago by chance?
I watched a bit of Ninjago when we started because it was just like, well, if we're going to be in the Lego family, I can't not see my cousins,
We like to hear it.
But yeah, I didn't obviously do a big deep dive because, when you're working on this stuff, and like this was my first time jumping into a more directorial role as well. So it was like I was finding, I'm not drawing all day and I can't just put on the TV show and just like watch hours and hours of stuff while I'm working. Like it just wasn't a reality for the last 2 to 3 years. But like it's one of those ones I definitely want to watch because it just has such a legacy. But I know some of the team definitely did. They deep dove and obsessed.
Yeah, Mel is very into it.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it. Very glad to hear it.
Actually, now going back to like the show, I'm interested because I asked Jeremy Adams once about drop concepts, and he said like, I can't say. This was before season 2 came out. He was like, I can't tell you anything because maybe I'm going to use them in season 2. So I'm interested. Is there any like drop concepts that like you guys never did for like season 1 and 2, or like stuff from season 1 that you have to move to season 2?
Yes.
Remember Barker Spider?
We were talking about this before the call. We were like, what's one? And I brought up one that Sarah was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, really early on, we wanted to do this thing that was just going to be like a running, I guess, joke throughout the first season, where anytime the TV was on, it was going to be like a soap opera of.
I know what you're talking about. Like I know what you're talking about. Monkey Cop.
No, it wasn't. That's sort of what ended up being like.
Yeah. Like that was the drop concept from season 1.
Successor. But yeah, we were gonna do like a weird Monkey King like opera kind of thing, and we had designs and we had like
we fully designed like the whole look. We had like little storylines we've written going, like we'll have like this running narrative which is just like kind of like what's that really old like long running it's like the mum show Bold and Beautiful or whatever is that? Yeah, we wanted to have this like running soap with like these like storylines and narratives and stuff, but you never see the whole thing. It's kind of like in The Simpsons where they got
the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing.
Yeah. We wanted that, so it's like you could take all the snippets from it and piece the story together. But then it was just like
very ambitious.
11 minutes. You got like no time to work that in, and we were obviously tackling a lot of story things as we were going through it anyway, so it was just like so much work, and we're like, it's a nicety, but it was at the time.
Maybe it's good that you didn't, because I feel like everyone would want that to be its own show afterwards.
Totally.
A built-in spin-off.
Yeah.
Gotta pitch it to Lego.
They'd watch it and they'd be like, this is terrible.
This is a bad idea for a show. In fact, you know what? You're all fired.
I really like the soap opera. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, it's like there's Easter eggs of it, like hiding inside this like Lego show.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's a million ideas that don't end up making the cut. And some of them we end up bringing back, and some of them, I mean, they're mostly jokes, to be honest. It's like you get in there and you're like, there's no room for this, or it makes one person laugh. That's not that.
Yeah.
I do have to ask before I forget. Like, was there any context behind like the green babies from season 2? Like,
the
fruit babies.
Fruit babies.
Yeah, that's from the chapter. Oh, I don't know what chapter. I was gonna be like, my brain was suddenly gonna be able to pull out the number and page line number of the novel. There's a story in the book where they go to this place and there's these fruit babies, and that was an idea that was throwing around, and it eventually turned into gremlins with a cat. But yeah, I mean, that's the problem with having a B story where one of the characters can't talk. It's like, oh, you don't actually get to have someone say what they are. But yeah, they're the fruit babies.
That was my favorite storyline from that episode. That was like my favorite storyline from that. Every time I wanted it to cut to Mo versus the fruit babies.
Well, what was it? When we briefed it to Jaden, we were like, Jaden Powell like kind of boarded that whole section, I think, and we were just like, just do Gremlins. Let's make it Gremlins. I think we had like even Gremlins like soundtrack behind it is the 10th music before it went to final. It was just like, we're like, yeah, that's all it really is.
Because Christian and Sarah, you guys are like fully into Gremlins, hey?
Oh, Christian's fully into Gremlins. I don't care for Gremlins.
I've still got my embarrassing. I've still got my Christmas tree up. I haven't bothered taking it down, but it's got a gizmo on the top instead of an angel.
I'm pretty sure I got you that gizmo for Christmas.
Yeah, I think you might have. Yeah, there's a few around the house. I'm a big Gremlins fan.
But moving on a little bit, like going back to like Ninjago for inspiration and all that. But what were some of Monkey Kid's biggest anime influences? Because there obviously is a lot. Like I remember there's like the JoJo's reference and stuff throughout.
Yeah. I don't know. We're massive fans of Trigger, the studio. So I think like everything by them. But definitely, a lot of us grew up on Dragon Ball Z, like Naruto, One Piece, and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah, I imagine Dragon Ball Z would have been a really big one.
I think that might be the biggest one. But I feel like
the biggest. It's the most like unashamedly one that we just continue to reference, like just put little Easter eggs in the show. Like,
I was surprised you said like Sailor Moon. I'd be like, oh really? I can't wait for the transformation scene where MK becomes this magical girl.
if we're honest, the Sailor Moon does come up a lot still, but I don't know if we can Easter egg it yet. Yeah, so
I think we've done a magical clothes transformation thing that's a Sailor Moon thing, right? I distinctly remember putting Sailor Moon in the description.
MK getting his cool new jacket.
Yeah, that's right. That was where it was.
A bag, collectible bag.
But yeah, no, I think if you ask anyone in the design, storyboard, the animation team and stuff as well, they'll all probably say a different anime that they're most inspired by that they think's a part of the show. It's certainly, and I don't think it's just anime either. I think there's a lot of like American media like Avatar, Korra, a lot of Chinese stuff, obviously, Legend of PA and stuff that are like that we really, really love and we're constantly drawing inspiration from. It's kind of a weird hosh-posh of basically just everything we love. I think that's kind of what the style really is.
It's the love, it's the amalgamation of everything that we've loved, and we go, and we're gonna just like try and be as cool as they are.
I was curious, what was it like working with LEGO, like in terms of collaborating on sort of making a cohesive story and not just a giant like toy commercial that promotes the products?
Yeah, good. Sorry, I was waiting.
I was really waiting.
I think that was
over everyone.
Yeah, I think that's who was going to answer first. No, they were really good about it. I think by the time we're usually looking at the story, there's usually a lot of like toy concepts and stuff floating around, and they're not normally finished. I think for both of us, I think there's constantly a bit of like a push and pull with the toy team over there, because they're always like, there's never enough time to sort out all their designs ahead of us needing to start a production, and we're always like, you're sending us stuff too late for us to hit this due date. It's like, kind of not having like a full year on either end is always really intimidating. So it's not so much like a handover if they just send us everything. We kind of get to talk to them the whole way through and say certainly the stuff that we like, and the whole way through their development as well. They're like, oh, okay, we're going to go really hard on this one. This one's, getting cut, stuff like that. And so I think that there's kind of, at the same time, we're looking at it and going, okay, how can we integrate these? Who's the villain's going to be? What stories make sense to integrate these toys? And I think there's, you guys probably know from watching the show, I think there's ones that fit a little more seamlessly, and then there's other ones that are just like, we just can't really figure out a way to get them there or to use this in a really dramatic way, so they don't feature as heavily.
Well, that's it. I mean, the show's always been pretty narratively driven rather than specifically, like, I mean, obviously the show's made for the products, like, to display those, but like ultimately our focus has always been kind of character and story and stuff like that. And then the products, we kind of use them to, just kind of create these exciting storylines, but then sometimes you'll get stuff and you just go, oh, I don't totally know how to make this work, like, in a realistic way for the character. Like MK, for example, like I remember when they showed us all this stuff, he's like, yeah, he's got this bike, he's got this jet, he's got all this cool stuff. Where they're going, but he's like a delivery driver. He doesn't earn enough money to do this stuff. So it's like kind of always finding creative solutions. So obviously MK is a nice easy one, because you go, he just spins his stuff and kind of builds this stuff, which is, and we also know that he has varying degrees of intelligence. So it's just like, sometimes he'll remember to do it, sometimes he won't. Like, so it's like, we're really lucky in that we lean on those comedy sensibilities to get around some of those sometimes. But I mean, it's always like a fun challenge to go, oh, cool, how are we going to work this in this time in a fun, exciting way that's also not going to totally kill our animation team as well, because sometimes it's very expensive to feature.
Yeah, Pigsy's Mac.
Yeah, I was going to ask, really? Like, was there a point where you guys felt forced to put into, like, I know, because I noticed in season 2, there was a couple of sets or toys that felt like a bit forced. Like, I know, like, the Mo mech was actually Sandy's mech, but you guys just gave it to Mo because it just fit, like, to that storyline. And, like, and I see a lot of people complaining about the May jet. I see a lot of people like, why didn't May use the jet in the finale?
Well, you can honestly say that one's a cut concept that was meant to feature a little more heavily, but we honestly just ran out of time trying to fit it.
That's a classic 11-minute thing.
Yeah. But it should say like, it should say like most of the time it's super easy, because like, we're really blown away by the designs from LEGO and toys and stuff. Like they're genuine, they're just super exciting. And so when we get to imagine those being in our world, it's like it's really just normally really exciting, because we go, okay, hell yeah, how are we gonna, like, how's MK gonna use his car or whatever, and kind of like, how do we want it to make it look, and how cool is it gonna be, and blah blah blah. So that's super exciting. I think the Mo using the mech thing is a good example as well. I think we also, as a part of it not feeling like an advertisement or feeling forced, we do like to be a little unconventional with stuff as well. I don't think we just want to like highlight stuff constantly and go, how cool is this mech? It's like we want that feeling to be natural, or we want people who are familiar to for the toys and stuff, for them to show up in unexpected ways. And I think that's a really good thing about LEGO in general, is that, like, a big part of it is the freedom and possibilities and the imagination to do whatever you want with them. And we like that that's a part of the show. It's not just like putting stuff in the show that's exactly the same as what the scenario is on the box, where it's okay, it's gonna be Sandy and MK fighting two bull clones. It's like everything's always a bit different, and hopefully inspires people to play with the toys in a different way as well. But yeah, I
think it gives like, it makes the world bigger, because I think that's the thing that LEGO really cares about with this show. It's like the show, well, with the concept, the show is a thing and the products are a thing, and then there's the umbrella of Monkie Kid, and it's those characters in this world, and they want to build it and make it that everyone can just come to it and bring whatever they want with it. It's this world that's just so big and so ripe for creativity and exploration, and
for sure.
Yeah, and bouncing off what you said about I wish we could have idealized stuff more. Was there any issues animation wise that were affected during the pandemic, in terms of rushing scenes or having to change stuff?
We were pretty lucky with how stuff is. I mean, we're all digital, so it wasn't ideal certainly, but we had a studio with a lot of people in it, but we also worked with people all over the world. And that's whole different companies that work with us, some in Sydney with us and some in just completely different countries, as well as just individual artists who are all across the world. So we were very used to working with those people in a remote way, and we had all the capacity to do that. So it was really just kind of the same difficulties a lot of people had with having to go from a studio or an office environment surrounded by people to then working from home, more isolated, which is really difficult for sure. But on a production level, I don't think we hit too many snags.
Yeah, well, that's it. We Flying Bark were actually amazing at seeing it. Well, not necessarily seeing it coming, but being really reactive early on. So they made sure people could work from home. They supplied equipment to people who, in Australia, who could, come and get it. And by the time that in Australia they'd locked everyone down and everything, everybody was already working remotely. So it was actually amazing, and we didn't really have any massive problems because everything's kind of digital. You shove it up on a database, you review it. It was a different workflow, and I think there's probably other productions that suffered a lot more than we did. But I don't know. Our team started we did most of the show remotely, didn't we?
Most of the show's remote, yeah.
Remote,
yeah, I think we started going remote towards the end of. I think the last few episodes of season 1 we animated remotely.
I remember 109 reviewing that from home, and I think it was all of us sitting there watching it going, this is great.
we recorded 110 at the start of the pandemic, and that was the first one that we did fully remote with all the actors and stuff recording in their own houses, most of them in their own wardrobes and stuff. And just quickly, I just wanted to shout out to the NYAV post and Michael Sinter-Nicholas, who's our voice director and casting director. The show just couldn't have happened without it. They didn't skip a beat. It was I think they pulled 30-hour day of no sleep, just going, okay, how are we going to do this when the pandemic hit? And it just happened, and it's amazing. And the actors were also incredible and open to doing it remotely, and it was great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A question that I had was we're just gonna kind of go into some individual preferences. So what has been your favorite Lego set that Lego has shown you guys to animate in the Monkey Kid show?
Monkey Mac,
right? There's probably the difference.
My favorite thing to animate because one, that thing never moves, and also it's hard to draw. But I mean, it's always the one that inspires most. It's let's use the Monkey Mac.
Heck yeah, that one's so awesome.
I love that set. I have a joke that's my baby. That's my firstborn. I have pictures of.
Pulls off its shelf and smashes its head all the time.
I have pictures of the monkey mech just tucked in my bed.
I don't know if you can. Do you glue yours together? Because mine literally the wind, a breeze will come through the window and
it does fall a lot. I have to say that it does fall a lot. But then I have it paired up with his
Sarah's
with his
doesn't
sister.
just fall though. Sarah's falls apart and shatters. So I have a feeling because they do the fall test and the shatter test and stuff at LEGO. So I have a feeling it's more to do with Sarah's building it.
I used to drop my phone and my phone case would come off and the battery would fly out and it'd just be in pieces everywhere, and I'm like, ugh. So it's definitely a me problem and not a LEGO problem.
I do have to talk about this was one of my questions. What was the hardest part? I want to talk about the Bone Demon because that's my favorite thing ever. I love Lady Bone Demon. I love how you guys did the Bone Demon. What was the hardest part about bringing to life the Bone Demon? Because that thing looks amazing in the show, and I just sometimes stare at it. I love it.
We early on, we actually have it in a box in a cupboard because I've been wanting to build it, but I don't have a surface to build things on. I got a dog and he eats everything, so it's been really hard to be able to build it. But like, I don't know, when we saw that thing, we're like, that thing is cool and it's huge and it's awesome. And I think the big thing about that is we were like, this thing has to be like massive and intimidating and imposing, like even when MK, spoiler alert, builds his mech and essentially goes in the season 2 finale and goes to like, fight her with it. It's like, even that's not enough. Like, it's like you have to make this thing like the biggest, craziest thing, and like the lighting and her color scheme and everything just really lent itself to that. And like, I don't know, I still watch the season 2 finale like with everything in it, and I almost cry. Like, I'm just like, oh my god, it's so cool! Like, it's so huge and epic.
Everything from the season 2 finale is amazing. Like, I love how it starts, the fight between MK and May, and then it just goes. It's kind of traumatic. I gotta say this. Season 2 is very sad. It looks really cool, but it has really low points. It's really sad. I remember talking to Village, and he was like, I don't know how LEGO proved this show.
I think it was a lot of sneaking everything under the radar, going, it's fine, it'll all come together, and it'll be a lot more fun once the music's in. And then we're like, it's not going to be more fun. It's definitely not going to be more fun.
The season 2 finale definitely isn't fun. I mean, it's fun to look at, but that ending.
They're not having a good time. That's what
no, they're definitely not having a good time.
You guys aren't cheering for Bone Demon? Like, she's going to be She won.
She's having a good time, for sure, yeah.
Oh, she was definitely
it's okay. It's okay. The audience is sad. But yeah, going back to like the personal preferences, what was your favorite episode to work on, like individually?
Sarah,
kind
you
of
start.
bleed into one.
Everyone. I mean, I'm obviously not going to say 109 because that one's just too obvious, and I can't say 210 because that's too obvious. But like, the dumpling episode is like shockingly one of my favorite episodes. Like, I remember the first when they pitched the concept for it, it's like, yeah, like this giant like bow dumpling, thing hurtles towards Earth and it's gonna kill everyone. And I was like going, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And then the more we thought about it and the more we workshopped that, I was like, this might be the greatest episode that anyone's ever made of all time. It's just like, it makes me laugh too much. The dynamic between Tang and MK is just like, makes me cry laughing, him carrying him up the stairs and like my weak ankles. I'm like, oh my God, it's just too funny. I think
that was the episode we fully fell in love with Tang. Like, we always liked Tang. He was always right up there, but yeah, that was the app he has my heart forever.
Yeah. I'll carry him up any amount of stairs.
I mean, speaking of Tang, have you guys heard the evil Tang theory though?
No.
The theory that Tang is the secret mastermind behind all evil in the world.
I mean, it sounds like Tang.
I don't think he'd have the he wouldn't have the follow through on it. He'd
have all these grand ideas and be like, oh, actually, I have to do work to pull this off now.
It would. I mean, like, we know about that Tang that he's willing to put in a little bit of work to get noodles for free. Mm-hmm. So if the end game of being evil was to get noodles, then maybe. He did set up a website as a food critic too.
Which I'm shocked that no one's done yet. Like, I was so close to making like a Google account and like reviewing all these noodle things as him, but I was like, I'm not gonna do that. That's too much work.
Well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow, so
yeah.
Was there any, with individual preferences, was there any like dream crossover that you would love to see with Monkey Kid? Ninjago.
I mean, like, the bigger thing for us, more so than a crossover, is just like getting way more of that like Journey to the West / Chinese folklore into the show and being canon, and like kind of exploring way more of that, because obviously like the show kind of like has focused a lot more on like kind of the characters and their growth and stuff, but now like I think that the show's really found itself. It'd be really awesome to kind of dig more into that stuff. And like, I mean, you're seeing that there's a bit of that kind of happening with season 3, but like even being more faithful to those storylines, I think would be really, really fun. But you're right. Like, if we were going to do a crossover, like, just because I know the fans would love it so much, like Ninjago would definitely be the one I'm like, hey, Ninjago folk, reach out, start a conversation. Anyone's listening.
Christian and David, you guys have a dream like with any character from like any media or video game, television, film?
Oof.
I mean, I think Sarah's right. Like like the original Journey to the West kind of is a fanfic crossover.
It is like the greatest fanfic ever written.
Like it just pulls on so many like the fact that Najab's in there, like that's wild. So yeah, we get to tap into so much of that already. But yeah, Harry Potter, put him in there.
Yeah, that MK learning magic would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna honestly give much the same answer.
I would also say Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Harry Potter.
Yeah, guys, that's the order. Guys, Journey to the West, Ninjago, Harry Potter.
I'm sure after this comes out, a lot of Harry Potter MK fan art is going to be out there.
It's a good thing to bring into the world.
Yeah. It is. Actually,
okay, so at my Lego store, at my local Lego store, the Harry Potter and Monkey Kid sections are across from each other, so they're constantly like lovingly looking in each other's eyes.
It's predestined. It's written in the Lego bricks.
Yeah,
I hope this comes to
Ninjago,
pass
so it all
about which
works out.
house you're in.
yeah. There's no coincidences in those Lego stores. So.
No, of course not.
Sorry,
I had a
guys.
question about, because my favorite episode is obviously 109, the Macaque. And I when I spoke to Jeremy about it, he said that Sarah was pretty much the mastermind behind it. She had a lot of influence behind that episode. But I want to know the truth behind that episode. What's the story behind it? Why is that episode so amazing? I go back to that episode a lot, just from beginning to end. It's amazing. It should be in a museum. I have to say that episode it's fantastic. And the way you guys introduce Macaque, you make him the fan favorite character. So what's the story? I want to know the story.
I know that one we were like, we knew that one was going to be the episode. Like from.
Well, that's it. We were like an evil-ish version of Monkey King. Like, obviously, this one's gonna go off. So, I mean, obviously, that's like the very first thing was just like, yeah, it's like Monkey King, but he's like, the dark version, and we're like, I mean, Monkey King's pretty dark already.
There was an image of was it Kingdom Hearts, Sarah, that you like put in the notes, like evil. Oh God, I don't know.
No. So it was just this thing where we were like, we want to do like this kind of like really good edgy get dark, because like that season didn't really have that much. Like it touched on some like pretty big stuff, but like this was the episode we were like, we're just gonna go ham. We didn't know if we were getting renewed at that point either.
Yeah.
So we were just like, let's just go nuts. Let's just like do like some epic fight. And I remember the episode edit came in like so over, because that fight scene at the end was like twice as long, and we were like, we can't fit this into 11 minutes. But yeah, it was kind of like the wish list episode where we're like, we want to see Monkey King like go crazy. Yep, let's do that. We want to see him be like awesome, protective, and like kind of get more up to his full power. Yes, let's do that. MK being awesome, like, having another mentor, like all these things. Like it was just a really inspiring episode on paper when we heard the initial sort of like concept, which is, this guy wants to manipulate MK to,
screw with Wukong,
do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, and it was a really exciting thing to be able to like brainstorm on what those kind of powers that Macaque had. Because that was a thing. Like his shadow powers and stuff just opened so many options. And
no, that's it. I think it's the first one where like we fully like sat down and we're like, what's the lore behind like these characters and their relationships and stuff, which we can't get into and won't here. But it's definitely like, there's a lot of thinking that goes behind how the characters interact and why and what their histories are with each other. Even like, with the canon of Journey to the West, it's like obviously we draw a lot of inspiration from that, like a lot, obviously. But like, if someone like Macaque is like, he's not as present obviously in Journey to the West as he probably is in this show. I think people just really resonated with his character, so just kind of really wanted to make him significant. I think like that emotional connection he has to Wukong is kind of like it's just a really interesting dynamic, and being able to explore it like that was awesome. It was really awesome.
Yeah. But we're all ridiculously proud of that episode.
It's fantastic. Actually, staying on the Macaque subject, I was wondering, we've seen the poster, we've seen the sets. We know Macaque is going to have a big role in season 3. Were you guys worried coming into season 3 that giving Macaque a more predominant role would kind of be overusing the character? Because something I think everyone loved about Macaque is he would just show up in one episode, be fantastic, and leave. Mm-hmm. So was there any worry with you guys, like using more, getting to play more with a toy, in a way?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think we like the time where season 3 was being conceived, like in the toy sort of thing. I actually can't totally speak for all the stuff that goes behind the scenes on the toy side, but that was all happening around the time season 1 was coming out, and everyone saw that episode and was like, "Oh my god, Macaque's amazing!" So it's like he was getting then his episode got kind of put into the season 2 episode, and then it was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do like this big, Macaque thing for this season and whatever." And which I was like, whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like, he's obviously a great character and we love him, but he's one of those characters where less is more. You want to see, you really want to see him, but like he's more effective when you see him less. So that was obviously the challenge for season 3, was like, how do we still feature him as much as we can? Because obviously there's that desire for it, but like realistically, he's not a DBK style villain who's going to come out and throw his weight around and stuff. He's way more of a kind of like sit in the shadows, like kind of wait for the right opportunity to strike, and he plays a very manipulative game and all this stuff, which makes him a really great villain. But he just doesn't have the same kind of dynamic that someone like DBK would have, where he is just coming in and messing stuff up, being really destructive and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a personal thing, and it's always the danger and the fear is like, I love these characters, but like to Team Rocket a villain, where it's like you've got this incredibly intimidating and dangerous character. If you see the characters beat that guy like a couple times, it's like, cool, well then lose the threat.
Well, that's it. And especially if we're setting up the Macaque is supposed to be like this kind of formidable foe, like he's not a guy they should be facing day to day, because like Jin and Yin, for example, like they're more your run of the mill kind of
I was just about to mention, I was like, I don't care if you overuse them. You can be in every episode. Give them their own spin-off. At this point, I will
buy every copy of that spin-off.
It works for them because they are ridiculous characters. Like, they'll get scared and run away at the end.
I scream and cheer whenever they come on screen.
I do as well.
Yeah, those are my Cockney idiots. Let's go.
But those guys are never going to make MK like develop anything. Like they're not going to make him
develop more frustration for them, maybe.
yeah, like develop calluses on the back of his knuckles. Like, so there's a huge difference between them, and yeah, absolutely, there was like a let's be careful about how we use this guy, but I think the balance is there.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance, because like we have like DBK, who's like super overpowered, like he's intimidating, but he's also really like reckless, and then we have like Macaque, who is like cunning. You don't never know what his next move's gonna be, and then you have Jin and Yin.
Yeah, and Jin and Yin, just those guys.
So like, it's like a really nice spread where you can like, okay, you can throw out whatever. You always have some sort of villain for whatever situation you want.
Yeah.
No, that's it. And power scaling is obviously that thing where if you have these characters that have all these crazy wild abilities and powers and stuff like that, they all do sit on like we have seen that. There's varying degrees of ability and strength and power, and who could win in a fight against who and whatever. Like that stuff's always kind of like right there when you're writing stuff. It's going, okay, well, like MK can't beat this guy because he's just way too strong and got way too much experience and comparative. But under these certain circumstances, like this character may be able to do this, that, and the other. So that's the thing with Macaque as well. It's just like where does he sit on that scale? And, you know, also like personality-wise, like why is he wanting to engage in this to begin with? Like he does everything he does benefit himself. So it's like, what's he getting out of the deal? Because otherwise it's like, why would he get involved?
Noodles.
Yeah, noodles.
Actually, a detail I've noticed, and I don't know if this was like on purpose, but MK has never landed a clean hit on Macaque, at least up to season 2. He's never landed a clean hit. He's landed some hits, but it was mostly like, or Macaque was distracted, or it was just like the finishing move from 109. But I do love that fact that MK has never really defeated Macaque. Macaque is just left.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes back to that power scaling thing, doesn't it? It's just like, you know, these guys, like, we even see it in 109. It's like, these guys are in just a completely different league. Like, like MK might be able to get up there and, you know, swing a few hits, but it's just like, ultimately, you know, these guys have been around for like hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, it's just, you know, experience. You know, he's the scrappy newcomer who has like a lot of luck on his side, and he's like got a lot of talent, but like, you know, he's still like been doing it for not that long. So
and on the other hand, he can't defeat some old farts.
Varying degrees of competency.
The power scaling is very fun. Like it's. I think a lot of it comes down to like confidence as well. Because like you see Red Sun and stuff. Red Sun's shockingly strong, but then he's kind of useless a lot of the time as well. Like it's always funny in 101. Like he teleports away. It's like, dude, why didn't you use that during your fights? Like,
because the FX animators were busy and couldn't do it.
It comes under the same kind of thing as MK, where it's like, because I forgot I could.
Yeah.
Definitely a nice plot device, though. Forgetting.
Hey,
my memory's not so good.
Running gag that we're gonna drill into the ground.
Yeah.
I would like to ask one last thing.
Sure.
What is MK's full name?
Finally, an opening. The old magical barrier trick. I should have seen that one coming.
That seal is strong enough to protect the map from any who would steal it. Even you, son Wukong. Do you have any idea what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm the Monkey King. Trust me.
Trust you? No, you ruined any chance of that long ago.
Honestly, Nisha, when did you stop being fun?
I alone should have been entrusted with keeping that map safe.
Somebody sounding jealous.
It was our solemn duty. Our oath was to protect this world from the Samadhi fire.
Yeah, well, something worse came along. Why do you think I need to use it? Come on!
Out of respect for your past friendship with the Great Monk, I will allow you to leave this place safely. But the fire will remain unforced, hidden. The map stays here.
I know you take your security job pretty seriously, but I really do need the map. So you see the problem, right? You want me to leave it, I want me to take it. It's toughy.
What? Don't do this!
I'm sorry. It's the only way.
Wukong, that barrier is designed to protect that map at all costs. If you force your way through it, it could destroy us both!
Yeah, I know. But you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
What? That doesn't mean you should! Wukong!
Look, Ninja, keep up the training. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll be tough enough to beat me.
Kid! Wukong, you idiot! You'll doom us all!